back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I'm here today to wrap up the Bookbusters readathon. This was a readathon that was hosted by Eleanor and Janet. I will link their channels down below, and it ran from the very end of September to the first week of October. The aim was to read 5 books. There was a grid that you could cross. I had a path mapped out. I tried my best. I didn't quite succeed because I was actually ill for 2 days of the last week with a really bad like head cold horribleness. It was nasty, so I couldn't really read an awful lot on those 2 days, which put me back. But saying that, I still managed to read 3, almost 4 of the 5 books, so I'm quite happy with that, and I'm going to tell you about the ones I did get to in this video. So the books I was aiming to read are all in this pile, and I managed to read 3 of them completely, so I'll talk about those. The first one I read was Thickety, which is by J.A. White. This is a kid's story. It follows a young girl and her younger brother, and they are the daughter and son of a witch. The witch is burned at the very start of this story, and she grows up very isolated from everyone else in the community because her mother was burned as a witch, and everyone looks down on their family. It's a pretty creepy kid story, I'd say. It definitely has some undertones that were a bit more mature than I was expecting, which I really enjoyed, and I generally thought this was a very good, solid read, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series. I've actually already bought the second one because I decided straight away that I wanted to carry on and find out what happened next, so I'm really glad I finally got around to reading this. I definitely would recommend it if you are a younger reader or if you just enjoy middle grade reads, because this certainly appealed to me even though I'm 23. So yeah, I really like this. Each of the chapters has a little illustration at the top, which is really nice, and it's just a really beautiful book. It's got like deckled edges, it's a really lovely cover, and I would thoroughly recommend this. I actually ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm super looking forward to seeing what happens next because it does end on a fairly large cliffhanger. I think there are 3 currently out in the series, with a 4th one maybe coming soon, I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely a fun series that I would thoroughly recommend if you're looking for something a little bit more on the darker side of middle grade. Next up, I also read Dusk or Dark or Dawn or Day by Sean-Anne Maguire. This is a novella, and it's a standalone, I think. This follows a young girl called Jenna who has died after her sister. Her sister's a few years older and she died a natural death, even though it was a bit of a horrible young death. But Jenna actually commits suicide after her sister dies, and so she dies before she should have, basically, and she ends up living life as a ghost, having to earn the time that she should have lived through taking it from other people. It's a very interesting concept, and I think that Sean-Anne Maguire does really well at creating very cool concepts and cool worlds, but it didn't quite grip me in the same way that her Wayward Children series did, because I felt like I couldn't connect to the main character as much. I didn't as much get into her mindset. I couldn't quite get behind her. I thought she was interesting, I thought the concepts were really good, and I liked the way that she played with family and what it meant to be at home and what it meant to be living a life you were never supposed to have. Like, I really enjoyed all of those concepts, but I just couldn't connect thoroughly to the character. So it was a good story, I definitely liked it, but that was all it was for me. I gave it a 3 stars. It's very likeable, very intriguing, but if I was going to recommend any of Sean-Anne's books that I've read, it would be The Wayward Children. However, if you've read those and you may want to try something else, I would definitely say well worth reading, just wasn't quite as good for me personally. The third of the books that I actually completed was this one, The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North, and this was my second Claire North read in as many days because I'd just finished Touch when I read this. I do think that the concept of this one and Touch are somewhat similar. This one follows a boy called Harry August, who is an immortal. Once he is born in his first life, he lives that life and then dies in a normal way, but ends up waking up exactly where he started his first life again, with all the memories of his previous life. So he basically lives his life over and over again. Things change each time because his consciousness is very different every time. The more lives he builds up, the more knowledge he has, the more people like him that he meets. And it's a very cool idea because it reminds me a little bit of Kate Atkinson's Life After Life, except that I didn't like Kate Atkinson's Life After Life and I really did like this one. So I would recommend this over that one. But it's a similar concept in that the same person is living their life again and again. But with this one, he has the same consciousness. He still remembers it all. He still endures the same things. Some of the events in his life he has to go through, like people dying at certain ages or for certain reasons, they'll always happen at those times. But he can change events like where he goes to university or the people that he hangs around with or the places he goes to visit. And so he ends up having quite a large cultural diverse life, or lives I should say, over the course of many hundreds of years, and he lives a very long time. However, when we follow his story, we actually follow him getting into a bit of a conundrum when he comes across someone who is working to speed up the process of evolution. He is trying to take the knowledge of the future and put it into the past so that people discover things a lot earlier, like technology, and this is going to completely disrupt the timeline. So Harry August has to try and figure out how he can maybe stop this or maybe get involved and see what happens. He's not certain yet, but it's a very interesting concept. I thought the elements were done really well, and she handles the story very well. I just didn't connect quite as much to this one as I did the other story by her, but this was one of her first books under this pen name. She's written plenty of other books under other pen names, but I really enjoyed it overall, and I gave it a 3.5, and I would recommend her stories. I would say maybe start with this one and then go to Touch, so that Touch is better, but either one is really good. I enjoyed both. So those are the 3 that I completely finished, and I'm very happy about that. The one that I've nearly finished, I'm quite close to the end, I think I've got about a third left, is this one, Wildwood by Colin Meloy. This book is definitely interesting. It is a kid's book and it follows a young girl whose young brother, who's just a baby, gets taken by a flock of crows into the wildwood. She follows in after him, trying to get him back, and as does one of her friends from school, and they end up getting into all sorts of trouble and difficulty inside the wildwood. It's definitely fun, it's definitely light-hearted, but I just don't feel like I'm connecting to the characters enough, so I probably won't continue this series, even though I already own the second one, unless the ending is really good. Currently it's sitting on like a 2.5 for me. The illustrations I love, because the illustrations are full-page illustrations that are just gorgeous. There are some that are beautiful colour ones, and some that are just in black and white, but I think they're all really pretty and lovely, and I love them. But the story is just not quite holding up to the other book that I read, Thickety. It's just so much better. So if I was going to recommend either of those to you, it would be Thickety, but I haven't read the ending of this one just yet, so I couldn't say for definite whether it suddenly gets amazing. But I think Thickety was really good the whole way through. So this one's sitting on maybe 2.5, I haven't decided. We'll see. The final book that I wanted to get to but I didn't quite manage is Swamplandia by Karen Russell. It seems that this book is just doomed to live on my TBR pile, but I'm hopeful that I'll get to it soon because it does sound really good. That is my wrap up of everything I read for the readathon. I managed 3 of them, I'm happy with that. But yeah, I had a good time reading it. I think this is the first readathon I've done in quite a few months, so it was really nice to get back into doing a readathon again, and I think there's a couple more in October too. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you did wrap ups or if you participated, how you did, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.